Hello and welcome to Cafe New Canadians. Cafe New Canadians is a virtual event series where every week we bring topics that matters to international students, immigrants, newcomers to Canada, and all those who plan to come to Canada. Today we are going to talk about a very important and very amazing topic that is storytelling for job search, and we'll talk about this with two amazing guests today. And I would say that all the discussion that is going to take place is going to be very amazing for all you people because storytelling is a is a thing that is very close to most of the people, especially working in the media and communication sector. So we are going to talk about this. And as you know that Cafe New Canadian is brought to you by New Canadians. That is a web and a TV show. You can watch us on Omni Television, also on our website newcanadians.tv, and also all of the sessions and all of the content is also available on youtube.com/newcanadians. And you can also watch us on all the other platforms, the social media platforms usually people join, like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and Instagram, and all other social media. You can watch us over there, watch our previous sessions, and you can interact with our content as well. So now I will say that I'll introduce the guest as well. But first of all, my name is Sherdil Khan, and I'm going to host today's session. And we have two amazing guests with us. First of all, Gabriela Cashinano, an award-winning author and career coach, and she's helping individuals the art of storytelling. We'll talk about later. And we have with us Sukhjit Singh, who's also an award-winning career strategist and also a very famous volunteer in Canada. So thank you, Sukhjit, and thank you, Gabriela, for joining us today in our Cafe New Canadian session. Storytelling for job search, today's topic, and this topic is very close to my heart because being a storyteller myself, I would get the benefit from these two individuals, that how I can navigate my career through storytelling. Storytelling is a very ancient art because from grandmother's stories to the other books people usually go and read, and also tell the stories through various platforms, through writings, through video and everything. Storytelling is very in these days. So we'll talk about that and how we can work the storytelling technique in the benefit of our careers. So first of all, Gabriela, I would start with you, and how we can connect storytelling with the careers, because storytelling, most of the people think that storytelling is altogether a different thing, but how can we relate that with our careers?
Thanks for asking. I like to start with a quote from Robert McNee, who is an author, lecturer, and a story consultant. He said that stories fulfill a profound human need to grasp the pattern of living. It's not only an intellectual exercise, it is a very personal and emotional experience. So as a storyteller, you want to position the problem at the foreground and then show how you overcome it. So imagine for the job search, when an employer sees your application or invites you to the job interview, what they want to know is, are you the person they are looking for? Do you have the qualities? Can you show me through your achievements that you're someone that I can trust and I can hire you? So if you talk about achievements, we can present them as storytelling, because you talk about a problem, you talk about what you did and the result, and that makes a story. Because people don't remember bullet points. In a resume, you just put, I did this, this, and that. These are just bullet points, have nothing to do with the patterns of living. And people don't remember the bullet points. If I tell you that I'm the best writer in the world. Would you believe me? Best
Yes.
writer, engineer, and coach, and let's say president of an association. It's just a list of words. But if I tell you the story of how I got from engineering to where I am right now, you will remember more. And I will make a certain, I will project a certain image on you. So you will know through your own deductions who I am as a person, what I've done. You won't remember the list, but you will remember something about my story. And you might
Exactly.
resonate with a part of that story. Not exactly what I did, but might resonate with something in your mind, and you might get some ideas what you can do. So that's the power of storytelling.
Exactly. And we'll also talk about how these stages can relate to storytelling, from drafting a resume to job interview. So we'll talk about that later. So Gigi, I would ask you, like, storytelling is very close to your heart as well, because in your immigrant journey you use storytelling, and you said that you are still applying those storytelling techniques in your career right now. So what do you think about that? How it helped you?
First of all, thank you very much, Sherdil and Canadian New Cafe, for your kind invitation. And I'm very honored that I'm joined by somebody who's known for her art of storytelling and how Gabriella, she teaches this art of storytelling. And I'm going to entice my information with my own journey and how I became a storyteller. And you said it so right, Sherdil. It's an art, it's an ancient art. And I remember coming from South Asia, coming from India, storytelling was always a part of us, be it a story of a tortoise and rabbit, or be it a story of a hungry dog, right? So
Yes.
those are stories, but they gave us some kind of moral. Like, what was the one liner we got from those stories? I am an accidental storyteller. Whatever, as an immigrant, you see me today, the success is not accidental, but what I became is accidental. By profession, I used to be an engineer. I was in teaching profession before moving to Canada. And you know what? As a teacher, you just teach, and teacher does use storyteller. But my background was technical, and not much of stories were there, right? I used to teach computer science and management. So my move to Canada shifted my thinking. It shifted the whole aspect and perspective, because all those who are joining us today, majority of them, I am assuming, are immigrants, either new or old. And in my job search, I realized that the resume alone was not working. Forget about even job search. Even when I was looking for volunteer position, simply resume was not working. So when I saw this in my early days, that Canadians normally, they talk a lot. They, for small thing, they make it so big. And I said, my goodness, like, this is point A, B, it is done deal. But to them, it is not done deal. And now to me also, it is not done deal. Every single conversation I have today, whether in my personal or professional life, whether it is with my neighbor or even if I'm doing grocery, I always make sure that other than yes and no, I tell them a small story. Say, for
Yes,
example, I
to answer this question, you also told a story, and very compelling story. So what do you think about this story, Gabriella, the story of Sukhjit Singh?
I like what he's saying, that first of all, when we come to Canada and in general in life, there are many unfolding stories. It's not just something from the past. You have a story about your past, you have a story about coming here, you have a story about what's going on here, and people love to hear these unfolding stories, to be part of those stories. That's how they connect with you. And that's what I
Yes.
like about what Sukhjit said, that he's incorporating this storytelling in everything he does. So that's how he connects with people. That's how people get to know him better. And that kind of connection builds trust and credibility that helps people in their professional journey as well. Job
and
Yes.
can
search, moving.
can And
Yes.
I want to pick, Gabriela, you just said this, know him better, him or her better. Just imagine, I am not a job seeker, but I'm still a seeker. Just imagine if a newcomer is using storytelling in his or her job search, which will make him or her to know better in eyes of an HR, or just when the opportunity comes, when you are sitting actually face to face, there is an opportunity for you to tell a story. All interview questions actually you can simply intertwine with storytelling exercise. And I think with more questions from Sherdil and with your expertise, Gabriela, this is going to be very interesting discussion. And all those who are joining us, make sure that you do ask question at the end, because
Exactly.
we all had different journeys, but we all somehow became expert. And in my case, I will say that expertise I developed after coming to Canada. Before that, I was not a storyteller. I was a direct shooter, but now I'm a storyteller.
Yeah,
Yes.
same
And
here.
when to tell story is also very important. And a reminder for all of you joining us through Zoom or through YouTube, you can send in the questions, or on Zoom, you can just use the question and answer tab, and YouTube, you can just use the chat option. So, Gabriela, what what are the elements you think a story should have if you are drafting a resume?
Uh, you have to think about your achievements. You have to think about the things that you did well so far. And when you think about them, try to put them in a three-part story. What was the situation? So people understand the context. What did you do and what was the result? So that it's kind of a short story just by talking about the situation, what you did, and the result. And you can include these achievements in your resume, because that will make you stand out from other people who will just list the tasks. I did this task and this task and this task. Is like copy paste from a job description to the resume. And that it's not only boring, but to the employer, they don't tell them much. They just know, oh, you had some task to do, but how well you did, it's where the achievements come in place, because the achievement can highlight that actually didn't do just the tasks, but you did them well, so you have good achievements. So achievements are very important to include in the resume. You can include them at the beginning. You can
Yes.
include them in the job in the each position at the beginning
Don't you
before
think,
you.
Gabriela, that writing a concise story in resume is a big challenge? Any tips you want to share?
Oh, it is a big challenge. I have an engineering background like Sujit, and for us in technical field, we don't think, we are taught to think very logical. So you really have to get out of your logical mind when you have to think about storytelling, because it's a different structure. Think about the hero journey. Someone starts on a journey, encounters a challenge, overcomes a challenge, and gets somewhere. That is a story. So that's not has nothing to do with engineering, for example, with or project management or IT. But when you start thinking, actually, you can put that in a story. So when you start using that structure of situation, action, result, you are the hero. Actually, from the hero journey, you are the hero. So what challenge did you encounter in the workplace, for example? How you overcame it, and what was the result? That's a story that you can highlight in your resume, in the way you're talking to people. So it
Yes.
becomes easier with practice. If you don't have it, like I didn't have it at the beginning, I
Yeah.
learned how to do it. But when more you do it, it's easier. And I highly encourage people, for example, when they go to a job interview, to write down 5 or 6 stories like this of their achievements, and just keep them kind of in their pocket. And depending on the question, they just talk about this story or the other one or the other one. But be better prepared when you go
So
to an
you
interview.
think that homework does matter before going to a job interview or any place? You have to prepare the stories that you had in your past, and how can you make that exciting and intriguing? So, Sukhjit, may I ask, like, when you were drafting your resume, when you landed in Canada as a new immigrant, did you know about storytelling, or just you were working on resume like?
Honestly, I will just throw a different curveball, but I will this curveball will add something which Gabriela mentioned. So that is what we call value proposition. When you write that on your resume, is how you entice your achievements in a storytelling in simple paragraph. But honestly, Sherdil, I had no concept of storytelling. In fact, I had no concept of that 1 2 page resume. My resume was way bigger than that. I had date of birth, I had my marriage status on my resume, because I used to work in Middle East, and there this is important, right? So when somebody actually helped me to tweak my resume, I was very upset with that individual. I have said this many times, because I said it is like this person took my clothes and I'm just naked, because 2 pages was not enough for me and it did not tell me anything. But then there was a convincing power, because every single line told a story. I'll give you one example. I did not mention about my previous employer. I just said what I did. But then my new resume, brand new resume, with help 10 years ago, when this person turned into a storytelling component, it simply said one of the top university in this country. And I said, just putting one line, your resume is standing out. And my previous job profile was, again, I worked in a electrical manufacturing company. That was my first job in my career. Like, I started with that. And when I was sharing that the value of that company is though electrical manufacturing company, but they had first Indian supercomputer on their premises. That was something like, it was a attention grabbing thing. That one line, two line, just mentioning about the company you worked in past, turned out to be really something which I still value. And that was my first lesson. But honestly, and in those 10 years now, I have mastered something which I always say, because I'm not a job seeker now, but when you are changing career, when you are actually applying for volunteer positions also, you need to put your resume, right? So now
Yes.
I do focus on what is required for resume. But beyond your resume, I always say this: there is an important component of networking, right?
Yes.
Networking is not only for job seeking, but you need to bring the component of storytelling in your day-to-day life, because you will be networking, you will be meeting with people. Given that we are in COVID-19, we are not meeting a lot of people, we are not traveling, we are not going places. But in ideal situation pre-COVID, you actually are meeting people. So with the time, I have learned how two things I have learned, honestly. Being South Asian, being Hindi and Punjabi, my mother tongue and national language, I used to speak very fast. With element of storytelling, I became automatically slow. And sometimes
Yes.
when I see myself and my other video 10 years ago when I was teaching in university, there is huge difference. Like, I'm super slow in terms of if I compare with myself, right? But definitely not only resume, it is the most important thing which Gabriela mentioned. The component which you mention on your resume should be telling a story. But beyond that, when you are actually meeting people, also
Yes.
should tell a story when you are interacting with them. I will give you one example, and then I will look forward to hear from Gabriela. The community I live in, it's a community run by a board. And when I bought this home, I was not very happy because nobody was talking to each other. So what I did is, I wanted, my dream was to buy a home in a neighborhood where everybody's talking to everyone. Today, I can proudly say not only that I'm director of this community, I sit on the board, but now we are talking to each other. There are 80 homes, everybody talk to each other. How did I do it? Again, storytelling. 5 years it took me to tell every neighbor a small story, listen to their story, and then connect this whole community. So this is just a side example, but it's very powerful, very
And you are saying
impactful.
that it is not limited to just job search.
No.
For your networking, storytelling is very important. So, Gabriela, there's a question Jawahar is asking. What could be the format of that story if you are going for a job interview or just drafting your resume or preparing a cover letter? What could be the format? Like most of the people suggest that the SMART story, start story, or STAR story, where situation, task, action, and result is mentioned. What could be the good format for telling the story?
You mentioned the STAR format, situation, action, results. This is kind of a very general thing. I can give you an example. When I switched careers from engineering to coaching and I applied for a position, I was hired not because I have something in common with the position, but I was hired because I created the impression that I'm the right person for that position. The position was the organization was just starting a mentoring program for newcomers, and they wanted to hire. So I applied for that position because I wanted to apply my newly acquired coaching skills. But I had an engineering background, and I never started a program. But what I said in that resume and cover letter, I said, I'm someone who relates very well to professionals because I will work with clients who are the newcomers professionals and mentors who are professionals as well. I have coaching skills that I can help, because what's happening many times when we come here, we don't realize that we need to do a mind shift to understand, to be open to what's happening here. So you can create a bridge between what we knew and what is here and what we can do. So I had the tools to help people create that bridge. And later on, when I put that experience of starting that program and running it successful for 5 years, I didn't say I recruited mentors, I recruited mentees, I matched mentor-mentees. These are just tasks. What I said, I was hired to start a program for professional newcomers and run it successful for 5 years. It's just one phrase. So I talked about what was the situation. It was a new program that I was successfully running it for 5 years. It means that I had the qualities to get there. So that's kind of story. So it's pretty flexible how you put those components into it. You don't have to stick with, this was the situation, this was my actions, this is the result. But overall, to be like a story, something that tells more than just actions. Because we are human beings, we don't just describe ourselves through our actions. We describe through our motivation, passion. There are a lot of elements that you cannot just describe in bullet points.
Yeah. May I add something to this? Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to give you some example because, you know, what Gabriela mentioned is so right. That example is actually from an engineer. I was invited to one event where they were graduating. And what this gentleman did is he actually created a small YouTube story of himself from the country he was born, the country where he worked, and now Canada. Every single picture had a construction site. Every single picture, not the childhood, but every single picture which was part of that YouTube in a very storytelling manner. And believe it or not, he was actually invited for an interview. He did not apply for the job. That is another example.
Yes.
What I did 10 years ago, and in one of those, again, those mentoring coaching sessions, when I was attending this session, we were told to create a portfolio. And what I did is I went to Staples, I picked a binder where you can actually insert some pictures. So I used my simple resume, but I also always, especially for first to 1 to 3 years, I always carried that portfolio with me. Now I have converted that portfolio to a digital file, but it is also another way you can create a story. So yes, every single picture, what I used to do is I printed out those pictures and I put some kind of title on that. Either it was networking, either it was working under pressure, whatever questions you can think and the picture you can relate. And that way you can create a portfolio which tells a story, another
Yes,
additional component.
the visual part of storytelling, that is very just I talked in the beginning that it is very in these days to make a portfolio or make a visual story of yours to compel for your job search. Gabriela, I wanted to ask you, there was a question as well. What is the best way to put your story either on resume or cover letter? Because cover letter gives you a very good platform to write your story. So what do you think, resume or cover letter?
Let me tell you what I think about resume and cover letter first. To me, the resume is about the past. The cover letter is about where I'm going. So in
Yes.
the resume, I will include stories related to the past to highlight that I have the skills and expertise for the position. And in the cover letter, I will include that I'm really passionate to work for you in this position because, and I will say why. So an employer likes to hire people who are passionate about something, people who like to work for them, not just want a job to pay the bills. So cover letter, it's your chance to go into that place of connecting with the employer on something that you have in common and you're passionate about. And the resume, you can include those experiences from the past and include the storytelling in the achievements that you highlight, maybe in a summary, maybe in this position, in each position. So you can use storytelling in both.
Okay. So, Sukhjit, there was also a question on YouTube. People who are migrating to Canada or they are planning to come to Canada, what do you suggest how they can prepare their stories for their job search before even coming to Canada?
So again, there are different ways to look at it. Make sure, and I will share from my own experience. What I did was all by accident that I kept capturing my journey when I was coming to Canada, and then I converted those moments, because I was clicking pictures also, those moments into kind of a portfolio. But when, say, for example, somebody is coming from country A, B, or C, and I know certain countries, there is not a lot emphasis given when you are looking for jobs on social media, especially on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Facebook, Twitter, and other things are different, but the platform which is LinkedIn is the most commonly used platform for job hunting. And to my experience, and including me, I never had LinkedIn before coming to Canada. I created LinkedIn here, but now and I'm talking 10 years ago, the technology is fast. People who are thinking about coming to Canada, they are in the process to come to Canada. They are already attending the sessions online, right? So what content you can create is, think about it, that what you want to do. Think about it, what you want to achieve. Think about your job search, especially because actually the anchor point here is how you can create a story which will help you in your job search. So what I
Yes.
will say is, do enough research about your job search, which means the company you would like to join, the sector you want to join, and then start building something on it, either digitally or just by following that company, and relate that information with your own journey, with your own experience. And then when you actually come here, when you land here and start looking for a job, then apply all the advices which Gabriela just gave. Put that on piece of paper, because remember, you will not get an opportunity until you get through. Get through means your resume has been picked to be interviewed. So that story, as Gabriela in details she mentioned, cover letter is the most important component. The story on
Yeah.
the cover letter will be looked at first, and then it will be your resume. So in your journey, you can mention, and sector by sector, it varies. An engineer will write a story which is not going to be matching with the
Yeah,
person
that's what I
from the
wanted
media
to ask.
background,
That's what I
right?
wanted to ask, because most of the people relate the storytelling with people coming from a media
Media,
communication
yes.
background.
Yes.
Most of the people who are engineers, just like me earlier, I also shifted my career from engineering to media.
Mhm.
That's we make three of us coming from an engineering background. So,
Mhm.
Gabriela, what do you think? Like a person who is whose background is biosciences or engineering, how can they use the storytelling technique for their job search and for their careers?
I will start to say that I worked for about 10 years with newcomers. And what I noticed the most difficult part, whether they were engineers or in other profession, the most difficult part was to reflect on their own journey and to realize what were the achievements. Because they were so focused on, I need to learn new skills, I need to build my expertise, but they don't stop and think about their own achievements. So when I was running workshops on the job search and the strategies, effective strategies for job search, I noticed many of them were like, but what should I put? What achievements should I put on my resume? And when you start talking, they had amazing achievement, but they didn't stop and reflect to realize, oh, that's what I did. I can put that in my resume.
How they can recollect that? How they can recollect those memories, those things that they have done? Is there any technique they can
What
remember those things, or just figure it out how they can work that story, that event, or that incident in their stories?
what I would usually recommend to create, let's call the general resume. It's not the one that you send to the employer, but a big one with everything you've done. And it's not only what was paid employment, could be also volunteering, could be personal project you were involved in, because you use a lot of skills in even in personal projects. I started an association, I became the leader of the association without having formal leadership training or expertise. So put all those experiences, small or big, on a big resume, let's say a general resume. And for each of those, try to rewrite it in a story. For example, when I started English French Toastmasters Club, I started because I realized that people uh, know learning a new language, they can learn the words, but they don't understand the customs and the way of thinking of the people from another culture. So for me, both English and French are second languages. So when I was working with one or the others, I realized that actually they can learn the language, but they are missing, for example, in the communication style. English people, Anglophones usually have a very direct style. Francophones are more diplomatic. So when you put them together, they get frustrated and the communication doesn't go well. So these are the things that you have to work out. So go back into your background, write down all those experience projects you worked on, jobs you had, and for
Mhm.
each of them, try to find specific stories. I was working with someone who wanted to apply for a position in a bank. It was for risk security. And he was just mentioning that he did the same position before and listing the task. And I asked, did you have any achievement? Did you get any certificate? He's like, yeah, I was the best in my department. So that's a story.
Those
That's
are the points that can build a good story, compelling story, right?
exactly. So he was surprised. Why I didn't think to put that in the resume? Actually, those are the things that employers are looking for.
So,
Can I
Jit,
can I
sometimes
add?
yes, you can add. You can add.
I just wanted to add, the way Gabriela mentioned, I will add a little bit more. I call it put everything on the drawing board. When you see it, don't start typing. Don't start typing. Don't put it on a piece of paper, but think about the drawing board. Think about a Slack, like a big blackboard, whiteboard, whatever it is, and write everything on it. I will tell you, every single person, especially immigrant coming to Canada, they have already achieved so much, but because of the cultural background, most of them they don't shy away, but they don't know whether that achievement will be seen as an aggressive person, and sometimes they just shy away. In my case, this actually happened. I shied away by mentioning all that, and I'm so glad that we three are talking and we are joined by many others. There are many common things I am realizing now, though I know Gabriela and Sherdil, that even mentioning Toastmaster, I never mentioned that for 10 years I was a Toastmaster on my resume. And communication is the key part. So before
Yes.
coming to Canada 10 years, I was a very active Toastmasters, a
Mhm.
member of Toastmaster Club. And I thought it is not going to pay me in any way. But the moment I realized after 2 years that how big Toastmaster is, it is your credential. And I forgot about that story. So is the
Yes.
case of others, because our mind is so much occupied by many other things as a newcomer that we need a job. We completely forget that what we have achieved. And if we can just relax, just breathe and think about a different approach. People do use different approach. This is where people like Gabriela, people like me can help also to unfold, because you always need a third eye. In
Yeah.
storytelling, the biggest challenge is a blind spot, and that blind spot can only be discovered by talking to others. And that's what is the most important thing, is how to collect your missing stories, because we all have stories.
Yes. Gabriela, Sukhjit mentioned some people who are shy to share their stories. So I would ask you, because you are a very pertinent person to ask, because you have written so many books, and especially for introverts as well. How you suggest all those people who are shy, who doesn't want to tell their stories, how they can overcome that and they can use the storytelling for their job search?
Before even I go into that, I want to add something to what Sukhjit said. When we come here, we usually come with a certain way of looking at things and even looking for jobs, like back home. And what you need to do to open up to understand what people here are waiting for you when you apply for a position, what people are here are valuing. So people here value storytelling. People here value when you talk about yourself, so they can draw their own conclusion about who you are, not just words that you have on your resume. So be open to understand the culture here, especially in the professional environment. And coming back to what you're saying, uh, for introverts, first of all, being introverted and shy, it's not exactly the same. There are extroverts who are shy as well. Shyness comes from having an experience that made you become shy, but you might not be normally an introvert. Uh, we talk about introverts. What introverts like is to work on projects that are meaningful. They like to have meaningful causes to devote their time for. So what they first need to understand, what is meaningful in applying for that position for that employer, what is meaningful to them, because that will connect them with something what's important to them. And from that connection, they will get more energy. They will present themselves in a more energetic way, let's say, than normal, that otherwise they wouldn't. And that passion that will come from inside will make the connection at the energy level with the employer. The employer will be attracted to what they are saying. That's one thing. Another thing is, imagine that you're not there just to get a job. Actually, you're there to partner with the employer for a common cause.
Yes.
So when you're thinking about that, it's not about, oh, I need to sell myself, I need to convince the employer. It's not about you. It's in what way your skills and expertise can help the employer achieve the goal and help you move forward in your career. So that's a common objective. So when you detach yourself from, I have to sell myself, when you detach yourself from, I have to talk about me, and you put in front, I have to talk about this expertise that will help you, actually you tap into something else, because introverts like to help people. So I'm here, employer, to help you uh,
Yes.
run this project successful, to help you whatever you have to say about the position, about the company. So when you put yourself in the service of the other, you will not be so shy, because your
Yes.
expertise, they need it. First of all, it's equal. You have
Mhm.
expertise, they need someone with your expertise. It's not the employer is here and you're here. And second is, your expertise is so valuable, but worth nothing if you don't talk about it, because otherwise the employer cannot know who you are and what you can do for them.
Well said. Well
Exactly.
said.
And Sukhjit, I would ask uh, just like we are talking about all the people who are applying storytelling in their job search, it is not necessary to use all those stories from your career. Maybe that could be from your everyday life. That story can
Yes,
also
yes.
work in your favor.
It is. It is very important. And I was just enjoying what Gabriela was mentioning because, in nutshell, if we look at the conversation, she said it in her last statement, all comprised very well that how important it is. But you're right, Shirdal. Now moving to your question, not only related to your job, everyday life can tell many stories. And I will give you one example. I did not buy a car for 6 months, so I was using transit. And what I developed when I was using transit was a good friendship with the transit operators. And when I developed that relationship with them, I got the habit of talking, standing next to them. Then, when I was also dropping off my resumes to all these employment agencies, initially I was just dropping and door was shut on me. But the moment I started building stories which I was learning from the transit drivers and converting that story into something which can be conversation starter, and when I was giving my resume, going to these employment agencies, I was actually spending more than 5, 10, 20 minutes talking to the recruiters because I was engaging them. People, Gabriela said it so right. I can't emphasize more than this. We may have a different style, but in this country, it is important, no matter whatever your personality is, be it introvert or be it extrovert, there are certain important component of communication and that communication is actually storytelling. I just want to show you something. A good friend, but a mentor also, she wrote a book, Tell Story Get Hired, by Daisy Wright. And I'm so glad that whenever I pick this book, and when she included my name in that, and this book tells us in detail that how important it is for any person, not only newcomers and immigrants, but given that we are a new Canadian cafe, this is paramount that we all know that we tell authentic stories. That is the most important thing, that no matter what you say, make sure it is yours, it belongs to you, and you have enough support to support that story. You can't build a fake story, and it will be
Yes.
correctly seen right away if you just by attending this session, if you think that, oh, tomorrow morning I will wake up with the story, it is not going to happen. Be authentic in whatever you do, and especially
There is a huge difference in fiction and reality.
there
So
you
don't
go.
be fictional. Go with the reality. What actually happened. You very rightly said, because the time when you pitch your idea, when you pitch your resume, very less. Like Gabriela, people call it elevator pitch. Like very few words and how you tell about yourself. So in that case, what could be the best way for the elevator pitch or for the story in a concise way to tell about yourself? People ask you most of the time, tell me about yourself. In that case, what could be the structure of the story about you that can compel for the person to ask you for the interview or ask you for your resume?
There is a lot on the topic on the internet, so they can read all over the internet if they just tap elevator pitch. What I want to tell you a little story. I was looking on LinkedIn at profiles, and I found a profile. It was an administrative assistant, and she had her name, but she didn't say administrative assistant. She said, "I'm someone who give peace of mind to the CEO." That's a small story in a few words. So she talked about the benefits of someone who will hire her, not about her own skills and expertise. And being so short, and it's kind of surprising to hear this kind of sentence, that's an icebreaker. People want to understand that how do you do that? What you actually do? So that will lead to a conversation or give me your resume or something else. So try to talk about the benefits of what you're doing for the person you are talking about, because you might have a different elevator speech for one person and another in a situation or in another situation. And I
So
want
is
to
it a good thing to prepare a lot of stories from your career, from your last job, or you just suggest that only a single story would work?
No, I said I just gave you the example of that LinkedIn profile. But what I'm saying, uh, we talked earlier about having a vision board, that board where you put everything, or my idea of a general resume with everything. You have to start working on that at the beginning. When you come to Canada, start working on that of the first thing, because that will give you a lot of stories. And depending on who you meet and what the situation is, maybe you need to bring this story as a elevator pitch, or another story or another story. But if you don't go through the exercise, you're not familiar with, and when you meet someone, you don't have time to think, what should I tell right now? What kind of story I have? So you need to have them prepared in advance. And I
Yes.
want to highlight something about LinkedIn, because Sukhjit said earlier that in an ideal world with me people, in my opinion, this is an ideal world for everyone, not only for introverts, because we can connect virtually with a lot of people. LinkedIn is an amazing platform to connect with people. And you can connect from your back home before coming here. You can connect while you're here. And you can ask people who work in your field for informational interviews. And you can use storytelling when you talk with those people. You can ask about their story so you can learn from their experience. You can share your story so you can implement this storytelling even in these informational interviews. It could lead to new people in your network and new opportunities. So there are a lot of ways of using LinkedIn. Another thing that I really love about LinkedIn, more you share on LinkedIn and you comment, more people you are connected to can see what's going on. So you're sharing your story, your unfolding story, and they might look at that article that you shared. Oh, that's an interesting article. That's an interesting comment. So you start building the trust and credibility, and that takes time. It's not a resume, a piece of paper that will build the trust. It's what you do all
Yes.
the
I
time.
will add something
Yes.
to what Gabriela was mentioning, and it is from my personal experience. I do have a LinkedIn profile, and honestly, those who tell a story and connect with me, that is a lifelong relationship. Those who just connect for jobs, that is not a relationship. I'm very fortunate. Actually, I have met many people before even they migrated to Canada, but somehow either they are blessed or they have learned this, I won't say trick, but this is a human connection. So people do use LinkedIn. Gabriela, you are so right. uh, and I wish I knew that art before coming to Canada, but now because of the availability of avenues like New Canadian and many others, these messages are out there. You know, anybody can Google it. Anybody can find out that what are the tips, the tricks one need to learn. And again, I definitely will entice this with what I said earlier is authenticity is very important, truthfulness is very important, and definitely you need to actually learn what is less and what is more, because for me now less is not more, more is not less. It's about with whom I'm talking to. Sometimes it is better to stay quiet, but sometimes, most of the time, especially for the job seeker, it depends. You gauge, you estimate what is the content you want to put forward, right? And stories you can collect from your past, from your present, and sometime, when you say what you want to be in 5 years, that is your future story. You can always prepare, be ready with those stories. And I know it is a challenge to put it on a resume. I know it is a challenge to put it on cover story, but definitely having this discussion right now and the ideas, the tips Gabriela shared, definitely, if you actually try to put those things on your resume, you will be amazed. Not on resume, sorry, on a piece of paper, you will be amazed to see that you are missing many things which you thought they are minor, But in terms of your profile building, your resume building, they are actually the most important component.
Sukhjit, in the case of a job interview, like you said that when you came here, you were speaking fast in a fast tempo.
I can demonstrate to you right now also. How do I
I just
use
wanted
it?
to know. I just wanted to know that does this tempo also works in terms of storytelling, and what could be the body language? Like it looks like that you are telling your story, not anybody else's story. So, what do you think? How can we work on the body language and the tempo of telling that story in a job interview?
Okay. I actually practiced my first mock interview, which was actually taped, and I still have the picture, but I don't have the video. But the feedback was the worst feedback for me because I was very surprised. Actually, I saw myself first time that this is how I do interview. This is how I'm telling the story. This is how I'm answering those questions. So I learned it. It was not inbuilt. So the best way for anyone to learn is face the camera. Camera is your friend, camera is your enemy. It will tell everything when you do preparation for your interview. And tempo, as I said, I'm a fast speaker because of my mother tongue. And this is a human thing. I was born with a different language, but I'm speaking a different language which I learned during all this time. But the most important component in this is that if I emphasize more on those keywords when I am at the interview table, and those keywords are either from your resume or from your cover letter or it is from your story, you can practice. If your tempo, this is how what happened to me when I saw my video, I said no way, until I improve myself, I'm not even going for any interview. I practiced, then I started giving interview. And again, my first volunteer opportunity was through job posting, but my second volunteer opportunity was just knocking the door and just saying one thing, because I had an IT background, and I just simply said one single line: if your organization is looking for someone who can work for free and develop a great database, I am the person. You should give me the opportunity of volunteer. And you know what? I got that opportunity on the same day. That was my second volunteer position, and rest is history. And I realized that just by, see, your personality and your style may not match sometimes, and especially my past work experience, my profile, my professional background did not match with what I was actually looking for. So I have to tone myself according to what I was looking for, and I succeeded because of this important component of storytelling. And again, I am actually, touchwood, I will say this, that this art I'm still developing, I'm still learning, but it has come to a point where when I'm talking to others who need my help, who need to pick my brain, I am succeeding very well in that, because my point to them about power of storytelling is coming like, wow, that light bulb goes on. Yes, I didn't think about it. It is working for me now.
Yes, Gabriela, you want to add something, because this is a very important thing. Like telling a story in a resume or cover letter is altogether a different thing. But in a job interview, you have to be face to face. But in these circumstances, you have to be in front of Zoom or other softwares. So in that case, what could be the body language or the words that can be used in a compelling story if you are telling about your career?
First of all, I want to add something to what Sukhjit said. It's not only practicing, it's very important to practice before, that's for sure. But also, there's something that you need to do while you are in the job interview. While you are talking, you have to pay attention to the reaction of the other person. Because that reaction, if you pay attention, and you cannot pay attention if you go, just say it fast. You need to say it slowly and see how people react to it. If you notice that they might get bored, you might say the story in a short amount of time. Or if you notice that they're really interesting, you might add something. You might get a lot of signs from your interlocutor that could help you say the story in a more interesting way. For example, when there is that question at the beginning, tell us about yourself. I got newcomers saying, oh, I'm a newcomer, I just came to Canada and I want a job in this field. If I'm an employer, I'm not interested if you're a newcomer or not. I'm interested if you fit to the position and if you fit to our team and organizational culture. So tell me something that's interesting. So if you start with something that you notice the reaction is not the way you expect, try to adjust in the moment. And that's where that pace comes into place. And you're talking about what words and posture. The posture should be with the back straight because that's how you project confidence, that you're perceived as someone as a confident person, but also it's helping you. When you have the back straight and you look in front of the person, it's automatically your body language will make you feel more confident and you'll project your voice in a better way. And you'll be a little bit more calm because when you cannot be stressed and confident in the same time, is not so easy.
Yes.
So when you are more confident, your ideas will flow more smoothly. The words
And
will
you
come
have to be confident with your story as well. Like it is convincing you first, and then you can convince other people to the story you are telling, right?
that you have to work on before to be sure that you have a story that you it's good, it has results. So even if you don't believe it's a big deal, but if it is a story that shows achievements, here employers love achievements. So just say it and see the reaction of the people in front of you. Don't overjudge yourself. Just put it out there and let the employer decide if you're the right person or not. Your job in a job interview is just to present yourself in the best way you can. Not to convince anyone because you don't know how the other candidates are. You don't know a lot of other elements that the employer are evaluating for. Your job is just to present yourself and you have to be less stressed. So you need to decrease your stress before you go into the interview, during the interview. So taking a deep breath before interview, being calm during the interview. That's what will help your mind function correctly so you project the right image.
And can I just add, Sherdil,
Yes, definitely.
maybe those who are attending this, and again, I put myself in the shoes of a newcomer because I knew that when you don't know anything, you don't know anything. And when you learn something, you try to do something, you may pass, you may fail, you may learn something new. So if those who are with us today are wondering like, what is like, I don't know how I can build a story around it. And I can completely agree with that most of the time as a job seeker, as a new job seeker, you may find it little difficult given that whatever the cultural background you are from, some countries they don't use storytelling. Some countries, some areas, the storytelling is part of it. Some or say some personalities, right? So if you don't have a story, don't think you don't have a story. Think that what story you can build from your past in very small components. Even the smaller component can be a very minor thing, but you can always build a story around it and then present it in a way. And coming back to what you were asking, the posture, the time of interview and all, it is all very important component of when you are actually at the desk of giving that interview. Best strategy is, if you really don't have a story, just don't make up a story instantly and give it away, because that is not going to work. The person who is on the other side of the table will quickly grab it that this is just a made up story. This has nothing to do with the profile, nothing to do with the job posting. It is just coming out of the flow. So prepare well, have multiple stories. And I know, I can tell you that we all have those stories. It is only that, that light bulb should go on and you should have worked enough so that you can say that story confidently. And rest is,
Yes, exactly.
rest is
Gabriela,
all, it depends on the
any last
situation.
tips and tricks of the trade you want to share?
If storytelling is the word storytelling is intimidating, forget about it. Just put it aside. Think about the things that you did well in the past and how you can present them. so the other person gets to know you, because that's how they will be able to draw their own conclusion about you, instead of just looking at your resume and get some bullet points there. So do whatever it takes, use whatever wording you want.
Well said, Gabriela.
Just think about those little things that make your work great, things that you were able to turn into positive if they were not good enough. So think about those little things and how you can say that. It's all that you need to do. And don't have the courage to talk about them.
Yes, and be honest with your stories. That could work well. So thank you
Very
so
true.
much, Gabriela Cashineno and Sukhjit Singh, for the lovely conversation we had on storytelling for job search. A very important topic. And these days, as our guest speakers rightly mentioned, that it's altogether a different thing. Storytelling is now coming visual storytelling. Most of the resumes are on the video format, and most of the portfolios that has a visual in that. So there are so many other formats as well. Thank you so much for watching today's session, and all the things that mentioned, all the resources that Gabriela and Sukhjit mentioned, you can log on to these websites. And it would really help you around all these things, especially for the newcomers who are coming to Canada or already landed here. There are amazing resources on these websites, and you can also join the Facebook group, New Canadians, and you can interact with each other, and you can also get the content, the past content we had, and upcoming updates on our upcoming Cafe New Canadian sessions, or other things that is related to especially newcomers to Canada. Either they are new immigrants, international students, or people who are planning to come to Canada. So these are the resources for all of them. And who joined us through Zoom, do let us know how was the experience. And thank you all who send us the questions and comments. You can also watch this on our YouTube channel and other platforms on Omni TV as well. Thank you all. Thank you especially Sukhjit and Gabriela for sharing your thoughts and sharing your tips for the people who want to know about storytelling. And thank you all for watching us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.